turn off my cell phone.
Right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the October 28th council meeting. Before we begin, I just want to recognize that we respect our First Nations governments, all of whom have a long-standing relationship with the land of the sea waters that continue to this day. Specifically, I want to recognize the 4 First Nations within our riding, the Shiana, the Supt, the Pachidat, and the Malahat. Thank you and welcome to the meeting. Okay, so we've got the agenda approval before us. We've got a pink to add, the Public Works and Protective Services Committee. Anything else? Council? Not? I'll take a motion to approve. Moved by Council Donaldson, seconded by Council Gray. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And presentations. We've got 2 presentations this evening. Our first is Dan Casey, consultant with Urban Systems. This is the District Metchosin Active Transportation Plan, Phase 1, the engagement summary. Thank you. Welcome, Dan.
Great. Want to talk into this? Or
yeah,
good.
Please.
Okay, well, thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight, and very excited to be providing an overview of our kind of Phase 1 of community engagement, some of our background work related to the Active Transportation Network Plan. So we've got about 10 minutes material or so, and then very happy to field any questions and conversations you like. So what is active transportation? Important for the sake of the work we're doing here that we kind of define this, and this will be defined in your active transportation network plan when we're done, and it's sort of important as we move through this process that there's a kind of a full understanding. It's a reference to human-powered travel modes. It's typically applied talking about people walking and cycling, but the definition extends beyond that too, to include other human-powered forms, as well as importantly connections to public transit, which helps provide part of that sort of suite of alternatives to driving in vehicles. The focus of the work is on trips that replace vehicle trips, so that being sustainable modes for purposes of getting to work, maybe getting to school, access to appointments and services and shopping and that sort of thing. And it's not directly focused on recreation or access to nature, but there's very obviously an overlap and co-benefit to the two. What is the Active Transportation Network Plan? It's going to be a visioning document that presents a vision for the community's outlook on active transportation. Some of the important parts, it's going to include sort of a vision and goals that describe that. It's going to identify a long-term network plan that shows those corridors within the community that will see active transportation facilities one day. It's going to include the actions and the investments needed to pursue some of those improvements. And I think importantly, it's going to be a document that's going to put the district in a good position to apply for provincial and federal level grant funding to help build some of this stuff. And so that last point is important. It's something that as we start to pull this AT and P together, we're going to make sure that what we identify in the document is in line with provincial standards, and will put the district in a good position to secure that funding in future. The process, it's loosely a 5-step process that we're going through here. The first step was really launching the project and doing some kind of background policy and in-field technical review. We worked through that sort of through the fall and or spring and early summer. There's 2 phases of engagement with the communities. The first phase happened through late August and into September, actually into early October as well, and I'm going to share some of the activities that were carried out and some of the key takeaways from that in a second. Our next phase, which we're just kind of about to get into here, is to start to draft the plan document. From that, I think we're anticipating sort of sometime in early 2025, we'd be out to the community with a phase 2 engagement process, allow for residents to provide feedback and input on the draft plan, and then we'll be finalizing the document shortly after that. So active transportation in Metchosin today, the map on the right is showing the network that's in place. I guess some of the important aspects, it's the Galloping Goose Regional Trail. That is sort of in essence we'll call it your active transportation highway of sorts. That's one of the key ways in and out of this community. We've got a pretty extensive community trail network, which is excellent. It's not always the case in other communities we're doing this sort of thing in. And so that's a great sort of building block for what it is we're doing here. A little tough to see the map on the screen in front of us, but what you won't see on there is sort of an extensive network of on-street cycling infrastructure and sidewalks like we might see in some other communities. And so that's maybe a piece that makes this community unique and something that we want to work through and identify suitable improvements through this plan. Also on the map, we've identified things like bus stop locations, which we want to make sure we're prioritizing improvements that help get people to and from transit. Things like schools and your village center, those are also important pieces. And then we've got crossings, both intersection crossings and marked crosswalks identified as well. So there'll probably be a process of determining which crossings might benefit from enhancement and perhaps locations where future additional crossings might be necessary as well. So kind of building the case for the current state. How we move. So the stats on the screen in front of us are from the 2022 CRD Regional Household Travel Survey. It refers to mode share, so that's the percentage of all trips that are made by each travel mode. And we've kind of, the pie on the left is indicating the different slices of the pie, or the percentage of all trips made by each mode. You'll notice that the cycling and walking percentages are quite small. This is quite small compared to most other communities we work into. Indicates there's not necessarily a high level of people out there walking and cycling today. It might also indicate there's potential for improvement there. So the table on the right is highlighting in the blue and the teal, the walk and the cycling mode shares relative to some of the other Western communities. And you see stacked up against Langford, Colwood, Souk, bigger communities, but West Shore communities nonetheless, and then also stacked up against Highlands, we're lower. We're lower across the board with respect to walking and cycling. So room for growth there. Okay, so the engagement that was undertaken late summer, September, and into October included a community survey. There was both kind of a question-based opportunity for feedback as well as an online map that residents could essentially pin pins to and add comments to specific locations. So there was that survey. We had a booth at Metchosin Day, and that was it was colleagues of mine who were in attendance along with staff, and I heard it was actually quite a great time and had a good turnout, and we've been engaging in conversations with stakeholders along the way as well. In terms of levels of participation, we had almost 300 responses to the survey. That's a pretty good response rate compared to other similar plans we've undertaken. Not the best, but definitely not the worst either. So we take a bit of comfort that the survey feedback we received represents a reasonable cross-section of the community. Chosen Day, we had a good number of people come through, about 75, and then we've been engaging in conversations as well. So I want to move into some of the key takeaways from the engagement. So in your agenda package for tonight, you have the detailed, I think we call it a what we heard report, and it details question by question and event by event what we took away or what we're taking away from the first round of engagement. I'll touch on kind of more like key themes, we'll say, than the details, but welcome any thoughts or questions on the details as well. So some of the key takeaways, I think probably the thing we heard most was that there are barriers in this community to cycling, and I think it's more of a cycling as a day-to-day preferred travel option. We heard sort of desired connections beyond the community, South Colwood, or into sort of Langford and the Happy Valley portions of Langford as desired connections that are not terribly comfortable and safe for people on a bike today. We heard roadside facilities as well, so a desire for whether it's a wider shoulder or dedicated space, especially on more major roads. We heard barriers to walking, again that desire to see just that much more space at the roadside, as well as facilitated safe crossings by improved intersections or enhanced crosswalks. And then we heard also sort of concern around road safety. And so roads, for this process, it's road safety through the lens of how it impacts people's willingness and comfort walking and cycling. But we did hear a lot about how, especially in conditions where there might not be a wide shoulder and people are walking or cycling on the street, concerns around how fast vehicles are moving and some of the motorist behaviors as well. So these are kind of key themes, key takeaways. I mentioned a second ago we had a map-based feedback opportunity on the web. And so this is the outcome of that. So what it does is residents place pins, they add a comment, and then we create these heat maps that show where those comments were concentrated. And that gives us a sense of where the greatest sort of areas of concern are throughout the community. So I love doing these, and they're very helpful in the end when we get to a point where we want to start identifying where investments should be made first. These are a great indication of where residents are pointing out the concerns, the problems. So some of the locational takeaways we gained from this exercise. We see a large number of comments on the kind of the northern portion of Metchosin Road on the approach to Colwood. I think what we heard also in the comments we received was a desire to, especially my understanding is sort of residents from the northern portion of Metchosin primarily is a desire to better connect into the south end of Colwood and what's kind of building out in Royal Bay and vicinity. So that was a key theme. Right in the village core, Happy Valley Road, and Metchosin Road intersection. Concerns around vehicle speeds on the approach and sort of the variability and lack of roadside facilities, so people feel safe and comfortable at the roadside. We heard a desire for extension of roadside facilities along Duke Road, and so whatever call for comments was sort of focused primarily on the areas where it's extremely narrow and the area where there's sort of tight and blind corners where it's particularly unsafe. We received feedback on Rocky Point Road in the vicinity of Hans Helgeson Elementary. We received comments around a desire to see a roadside pathway in this section of Rocky Point Road, maybe kind of like the section further toward the village, connection to Galloping Goose, and then Hans Crossing there as well. Then a couple others on the approach to kind of the Langford border up Happy Valley Road. I think it's the Hillman Trail up top in the residential area there as well. So this helps us kind of focus our attention on those areas where residents are telling us they have concerns. Another fun thing we did at the Metchosin Day event was we call it Dotmocracy. So we pose a question, we provide a series of ballots of possible responses, and we asked people to vote in the form of sticky dots. And so one of the questions we asked was what actions could be undertaken to better facilitate active transportation. And we provided a number of response options. And what we basically take a look at this and see where we received the most dots and where the most votes were placed. And so we saw a lot of interest in pedestrian facilities. So bunched in the top left there is a desire to see off-street pedestrian walkways, improved pedestrian crossings, and enhanced pedestrian safety at intersections. So we really do kind of clump those up, and pedestrian safety, pedestrian infrastructure being a key takeaway from this. We see in the center there desire for painted or buffered bike lanes. We see a concentration of dots or votes in that area. And then on the right-hand side, a couple of the key response areas were around more off-street multi-use pathways and neighborhood connections to the Galloping Goose. So this it provides us a nice takeaway in terms of where people's priority and where their emphasis lies. So from that, and you will see in the summary doc that's in the agenda package, there's a lot more. Each question from the survey has been broken down. Key takeaways from conversations and from the Chosen Day booth are all in there. So there's a lot more to it than what I just went through. But those are kind of the high-level pieces. And then we use that plus some of our background work to start to sort of, I guess, suggest where the areas of focus for the plan might be. One of our next steps is to start drafting the plan, what will be the final plan in the end. And so these plans necessarily contain some of the things I talked about earlier, but each community is different. And so here's some of the pieces that we see as being the real potential areas of focus based on what we've learned so far. So there's a desire we're hearing for facilities on major roads, areas where traffic volumes are higher, where connections generally happen over longer distances on our major roads, and we tend to see higher speeds. So we definitely heard that as a key theme, is the focus on those major roads. We heard a lot about connections, so connections beyond your borders, but also connections to the Galloping Goose, which help get people beyond borders as well, get them to and from where they're going. We heard a lot about these goose connections being important to residents. We heard concerns around pedestrian safety at both at intersections and crossings, and so kind of key themes around linear pedestrian infrastructure, a desire to see more trails and pathways, but also this theme around crossing, so safety at intersections, safety at crosswalks. We heard, this all sounds negative, like these are things that need to be addressed. That is what we're trying to do here. I would say on the positive, we heard a lot of positive feedback around the trail opportunities that are presented to people in this community. And so with that, we did hear a desire for more and expand the network. We heard a desire to maintain them to a higher level. But we did hear, and this again kind of slots in there as an area of focus or area of improvement. I would argue this one is like an area of, we've got a strong foundation. Now let's see if we can do better. We heard a lot more than we're hearing in other communities about concerns for road safety and how vehicle speeds and vehicle volumes and narrow streets are negatively impacting people's willingness to engage in active transportation. So where often these plans sort of focus on building trails or building bike facilities or building active transportation infrastructure, there would seem there's a great value here. If the end goal is more people feeling safe and comfortable and then getting out there and engaging in active transportation, addressing the traffic concerns people have and the safety around engaging with traffic on shared streets is going to be an important thing, I think, here as well. And then lastly, and I think this is maybe kind of baked into each of the items that I just touched on, but we heard, and I absolutely believe this to be true, is we're going to have to think really hard about facility types that are designed in a way that suit this context. And so we heard loud and clear that people appreciate the trail network and the rural character of this community, and they want safe, comfortable, active transportation facilities, but they want facility types that suit this community. And so I very much look forward to next steps and teasing out exactly what that's going to look like for here. Okay, so next steps. We are going to go away over the next couple months, draft a draft plan that will contain vision and goals. So it'll describe what active transportation looks like in this community once this plan has been implemented. Goals that'll help sort of direct and track how well this network's being built out. There will be a long-term network and supporting design guidelines. So where will future facilities go? What will they look like? And then there will be a list of priority improvements. And so these are the long-term network is going to cover your entire community. That's going to result in a ton of projects over time that might take a long time to realize, but we want to highlight those that are most important first. And so those could be and should be either some sort of smaller investments, operational things you might do with existing budgets, as well as perhaps some more significant projects that we're going to pursue external funding for, and hopefully we're successful with that. One other outcome that's unique to this plan over others is one of the last things we'll actually do is prepare a concept design and a cost estimate for project number 1, with the idea being that that'll be the one then that is submitted to province for funding, hopefully next fall. So from there, we anticipate the draft plan will sort of be ready further toward the end of this calendar year. And then in the new year, we'll be looking to go out to the community again for a round 2 engagement. So where round 1 was focused on, you tell us, teach us what the challenges, what the opportunities are here. This will be more of a present back, where it's here's the draft plan. What do you think about it? Are you supportive? What do you think about the priority projects that have been identified? So that'll be back into 2025, and then from that, from guidance from council, from guidance from staff, we'll work to update the draft plan and make it final. So that's all I had for tonight. Thank you for allowing me to be here, and very happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentations. Councillor, do you have any questions or comments for Dan Casey? Councillor Shukin.
Thank you, Mr. Casey, for the presentation and the work done to date. Just when you say facility types, and respondents and community members have said they want facility types kind of consistent with our local values or aesthetics, or what do you mean by facility types?
We heard both. We want facilities infrastructure that belongs in a more rural setting like this.
Okay.
So less emphasis on I interpret that, less emphasis on sort of urban style on-road bike infrastructure or concrete sidewalks with curb and gutter, and more on gravel facilities, trails, things that still create the space that people are out of the roadway, but they look and feel a way that belongs here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I just I had this interesting experience the other day, and I just wanted to relay it to you and ask you what it maybe means or speaks to around active transportation. I was driving down a nearby road, and there was a pedestrian who, as I was approaching, actually walked out into the side of the street, more so as I was coming. And I duly slowed down and gave him space. I would have done that anyways. But to me, the automatic thinking was, we need a roadside trail in this area. But any comments about the human behavior side and what that may speak to?
Oh boy.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, that's fine. That's an interesting sort of behavior, I guess, by someone walking down the street. Maybe it was a play to try and be more visible, so you definitely saw them. Just speculating. I think that's probably a pretty good indication. Well, that's a location where that person didn't feel seen and didn't feel comfortable, and that was their response to sort of be seen and avoid what they believe to be a potential conflict. Potentially a candidate location to invest in something off the street to get people out of the roadway. Tough to say, I guess, without knowing exactly where. Okay,
it happened over the weekend. It was a really odd experience.
It sounds odd.
But again, it said to me, roadside trail. So, thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. I'm just wondering about specifics, like taking the village core, for example, like what type of specifics would you actually come up with looking at that area?
Yeah, quite honestly, on a street with like as much activity that's happening and traffic on that street, we would ideally have people walking off the roadway. So they'd have dedicated facility off to the side, ideally in behind parked cars. So the interaction between how you get in and out of your parking stall, pedestrian activity happens outside of that. Yeah. How it can look and feel, that I mean, honestly, there's a conversation to be had there, I would say. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Shukin, or sorry, Johnson.
Thank you. Thank you for the report. I enjoyed reading it, and confirmed a lot, I think, of what we already know. Speed being a real concern, and congestion in the village core, where we have lots of activities and events, and vehicles mixed with pedestrians is always a concern. And our successes of having, as you say, a delineation between a road and a roadside trail has been thought out in some parts, but not applicable in many parts of our community, obviously. Not surprising that speed is a concern, whether it's on the street or the Galloping Goose Trail is another place. There's just a lack of courtesy there, but as somebody who frequents both, I was actually a little surprised at how many people do walk compared to how many people who don't cycle. I thought we had a lot more cyclists in our community, but certainly understand why when I start reading more about the speed concerns as well. So maybe in the future that might change. I look forward to the next steps, certainly. One question I think I saw in there was something to do with other modes of transportation, rolling, like wheelchairs and that sort of thing. Were there any comments about changing some of our, when I say interior, the village core area roadside trails to a different aggregate, not paving or not cement sidewalks, but something that was easier to traverse on for people with mobility challenges.
Yeah, quite honestly, I don't recall that specific comment coming through, but it's something we could look in a little deeper if you'd like. I think it's a good comment. Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Brett.
Thanks for the presentation and for the work you've done. It's pretty cool. And I think I like where it's going. I had a couple of questions, though, just about the survey and the material.
Yep.
So the first, what's the difference between a stakeholder and a resident?
We generally sort of, stakeholders are agencies or organizations or committees that, have a vested interest, whether it's a committee or agency of, like, within the particular community chosen, or like we've engaged with adjacent municipalities to understand what their network plans are and to make sure we're sort of connecting the dots, so to speak. So that's sort of who we consider to be stakeholders, and then residents or residents. Yeah.
Great. And then have you I think we were on a list for places like Capital Bike and those sorts of people who've had a lot of experience. Are we talking to them?
We actually haven't to date. We could. They have a lot of insight.
Yeah, just given we're a bit different from other places, maybe that would be helpful.
Yeah.
I wondered too, looking at the survey results, I mean, they're, like Councillor Donaldson, they're kind of fun to read and think about what does all that mean. What strikes me is that most of the responses depend on where you live. So a person living, for example, at the top of Le Bon Road would be unlikely to walk down to the store here, whereas if you're across the street from the store, well, walking would be higher. So all the numbers, although interesting, are skewed by location of residence, I think. And for this community, it'd be a little bit different if you have multiple stores in multiple neighborhoods and that kind of thing. But just a comment to be wary about the results as we move forward. And I wondered, looking at, for example, what we heard on page 8, there's a picture of the cyclists, people sometimes cycling or rarely cycling. Is it that we're trying to get those very same people cycling more, or are we trying to get new people cycling? Or same with walking, are we trying to get new people out, or are we trying to get people to do more of this, what they're already doing?
Yeah.
Question for them.
Yeah, I could pose that question right back to this group, to be honest.
Very good. Okay.
But my take is it's all of the above. There's sort of a theory or a principle in kind of what it is I do, and there's sort of 4 groups of cyclists or active transportation user. And the 4th group is that they call them the no way, no how, and they just don't want to. Regardless of if you build them, they're not going to. And we can quibble over what percentage that is, but it sort of in literature, it's 25% of the overall population. So it's not them, because we're not going to sway them one way or the other. It's the rest. It's the ones that are already out there and would feel safer and more comfortable if they had better facilities to do it on. And it's those that are sort of timid or wary and maybe out every now and again, but would be out there a lot more often if they had a comfortable, safe place to ride or walk.
Great. That's helpful just when we think forward to our vision and our goals. Are we trying to move movers or move people who, how did you call them? People who are not ready to do any of the above. We'll think about that later, I suppose. The other question I had was in relation to, or just a comment maybe, if I may. The survey, I completed the survey, I didn't notice there was a map.
Oh.
So in terms of survey design, it probably was great, big and evident, but I missed it. So when I saw it here, I thought, oh, that's interesting. That was a nice addition. And on that, not for tonight, but I wonder if you might tell us, we've had a representation in the last few weeks about the Saddleback Road and High Mountain Drive.
Okay.
And that's a large number of residents opposing any kind of trail there.
Okay.
And then you've got noted property. Someone said they wanted a connector trail. I wonder if you might be able to flip an email to staff just to say how many people that put that forward.
Okay.
That would just give us a sense of the balance of those questions.
Do you have an additional comment?
Yeah, I wondered on the page showing the shoulder bike lane, the off-street, and the shared. I wasn't sure which one did people rank highest. And maybe it's the one on the left they ranked highest. Sorry, that's a sort of very specific question, but highest scores for shoulder bike lanes. And Do you think people are thinking cost there? I mean, the safest one would be off right away from the road. Is there any comment on why people would choose the less safe option?
Yeah, honestly, that one's probably a little bit open to sort of both the survey respondents like understanding and their perspective on things. The reality is when we do get to developing a network plan, different streets are appropriate for different facility types. So the shared lane cycling route on the right, that is inappropriate on the chosen road.
Yeah.
Or Kangaroo Road, like totally inappropriate, versus on a local street where we know speeds are low and volumes are low, absolutely appropriate. Versus we get into our major roads, that's where we want to see shoulder bike lane, or even better, a fully separated pathway of sorts. And so a lot of this, we did want to tease out sort of what people view as being appropriate for this community, but part of the exercise will also be making sure the right facility matches the street or the right of way that's going to be in. Yeah.
Well, maybe I'll finish with just one more question, and that is later tonight we're going to be considering making an application for a grant for an activated pedestrian crossing in front of the Hans Helgeson School, so there's a crosswalk there. And I was wondering, it's so early in your process, the reason why we might do that, if my understanding, is because there's money available to apply by a certain date. And the other place that I'm wondering about the same facility would be here at the downtown core, that crosswalk, that's the pedestrian crosswalk where there. I've heard a lot more concerns about that. I wonder if it's maybe too early to comment, but and I don't know the value of these grants, maybe the amount of money available, we can do both of them. But did anybody comment about either of those?
Yeah, we actually heard about both through the survey, and both areas were locations where sort of areas of concern were concentrated. So we did hear a fair bit of, I guess, support for the need for both of those. Is this the Vision Zero grant fund?
Yes, it would be.
Yeah, I don't actually recall the upper limit on those applications, but pedestrian activated crossings aren't terribly expensive,
No.
especially compared to when we're talking about some of this linear infrastructure.
I can tell you the price here, the amount of money available is $20,000 per project, it looks like.
Okay.
Might that do two?
Probably not.
No, thank you.
Councillor Powell.
I think the reason that we decided to use the grant to try to get the lights at Hans Helgeson was because basically there already is a crosswalk there and all the signs and so forth. And just for me personally, I thought it would make more sense to wait until we actually get the active transportation plan in place and then go after the lighted crosswalk wherever you guys feel it would be best needed in the village core.
Yeah.
In addition, there's going to be increased traffic at the Hans Helgeson, you noted the other night as well.
Yeah, the reason I asked my question is simply because this other location, of course, has been a big issue for the community for a long time.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation, and look forward to the final report. If our end goal is to increase safety and to get more people feeling safe, you would think that we'd want more people, build the infrastructure, work in the safeness, and then more people, as opposed to those people that are already walking to be walking more or bicycling more, one would think. But anyways, I was really intrigued by the results of the survey, and it's a great start.
Good.
Thank you.
If I could just ask one more question. Do you have any idea where people did live in terms of how they responded? Did the map show their location of residence?
No, that wasn't a question that was asked here. Yeah.
So some of the emphasis might be in terms of just the number of respondents by the neighborhood. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you. Colleagues, getting feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Enough.
Yeah.
There it goes.
Can you hear feedback?
It's good.
Okay, along the same lines of community safety, we have Superintendent Todd Preston here with the West Shore RCMP. Welcome. Thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Thanks very much, Madam Mayor, Council. Thanks for having me. I always appreciate the invitations. So I thought I would just start by giving a quick overview of some of the files that we've seen and some of the numbers that we've seen over the last number of months here. So in the last month, just to give perspective, from October 1st to October 28th, we went to 77 calls for service, 77 files in Metchosin. 3 of those calls from October 1st to 28th, there was shots fired calls. Each of those times, the members attended, conducted extensive patrols, stayed in the area, spoke with neighbors, tried to make people feel as comfortable as possible. Unfortunately, nothing was ever found in relation to those calls. But just to put that on the radar there, that there has been an increase, or at least in my perspective, an increase in shots fired calls. I appreciate Councillor Shrippin and I'm not sure, I think there might have been a couple others, Madam Mayor, obviously, for attending the detachment when we introduced 2 new electric vehicles into the fleet here. So we are the pilot project for the country. I'm pretty proud to say that the West Shore Detachment has this and protective services. So the Prime Minister's detail are the only 2 places where the RCMP has fully operational, marked electric vehicles in motion. And so thus far, we've had great success with those. Thankfully, Metchosin, being our furthest point of detachment area, is not that far away, obviously. So to come out 30 minutes, 35 minutes, whatever it may be, and back certainly isn't a strain on the battery. And thus far, we actually haven't had any issues with battery life, and the members, especially the tech-savvy ones, sure enjoys driving them. We're also testing a new light bar here just to provide greater safety for our membership. So it's a light bar that is designed with a V in the front. So you'll actually, if you see one of our vehicles there, it's a Ford Explorer that has that. It's similar to what the Los Angeles Police Department and the New York Police Department and other agencies down in the States are using it. It's more of a safety piece for intersections, so that obviously the community and members are better prepared when they go through the intersection, and they're more visible. Traffic, I've heard from this council loud and clear that traffic is a concern in Metchosin, probably the #1 priority from what I've heard thus far. You can correct me if I'm wrong after. Every day we assign members. I think, as you know, the detachment is a fully integrated detachment. So the members that you pay for go to calls in Langford, Colwood, Royal Highlands, and conversely they come out here. But what we do every day is we do assign members to each jurisdiction, so that when they do have downtime, or when they need to write up a long file, that they can place themselves strategically in an area so that there's greater visibility. So hopefully you are seeing that in the community here. In addition to that, I've made sure that I've directed the traffic services. I always tell them that you guys don't ask for a whole lot out here, just traffic. So if we could certainly come up with a game plan to ensure that the constituents out here are feeling safe. And we know that in springtime and fall time with the motorcycles and some of the toy vehicles that people have, that they come out here and use this as their racetrack. Not including the general duty members that are coming out here day to day. In the last month here, we had 10 charges from our traffic unit that came out here, 5 speeding charges, 2 speed warnings, 3 school zone violations, 1 box 3, which means there's a mechanical deficiency in the vehicle that was towed, and 3 no driver's license vehicles. Not in this jurisdiction, but they have participated in the Think of Me ICBC campaign, where students draw little pictures and say think of me, and we hand those out in the school zones area, so that again it plays on people's conscience to slow down and just put things in perspective of what's important throughout the day, whether it be speeding through a school zone to get to your appointment or the safety of our children. And on that topic, I know you guys were talking about installing lights, which I think I've advocated before. One of the ones I noticed actually on the way in here is it's a speed reader, which is great. But in my years of experience, the ones that actually have the happy and sad smiling faces actually have a greater impact on changing people's behavior. And I've actually heard some other people speak to that. I have actually seen the literature, but I'm told that there is literature out there that supports that. So just something to keep in mind when you guys are adding speed readers, that if you get the ones, Colwood actually has one right outside their city hall.
Yeah.
And when you see a sad face, it somehow plays on people's conscience to slow down a little more. Picture's worth 1,000 words, I suppose. Again, we want to thank all the municipalities that came out to and supported the Cops for Cancer Gala. And that night we raised $65,000 for pediatric cancer research and to send the unfortunate children that have that disease to Camp Good Time. We're currently looking for community policing. One of our volunteer programs is looking for speed watch volunteers. So if you know anybody that is interested in volunteering, they can reach out to the attachment to our community policing unit and express interest. Restorative justice, we have a really robust restorative justice program, and I'm a pretty big advocate for it. Instead of sending individuals to court that probably don't belong going to court, I think there's a greater chance of influencing behavior based on actually having to face the individual that perhaps you victimized, or to do community service. So we have a volunteer, Randy Jo Hall, she puts in more hours than most people do in a full-time work week, and she does it all by volunteerism. But she spearheads this, and so from January 24th to October 15th, we had 36 files referred to restorative justice this year with 54 alleged suspects. So essentially, one suspect one suspect for every week of the year here. 23 adults, 31 youth, 364 hours of community service, and $650 in donations through collection of pop cans and sorting pop cans. And we really do find that this program is extremely beneficial for the reduction of recidivism. So it's just been a really good, robust program, and pretty proud to say I think it's probably one of the better run ones. And again, no, that's not thanks to me, it's thanks to our volunteers and community policing that really spearhead this program. A lot of obviously the files that are referred to are shoplifting. So 33 of those were for shoplifting, which still to this day really is becoming a huge societal problem, especially in our communities, where the box stores are in West Shore and Langford, Colwood, View Royal, where you guys do your shopping. I don't know if it's a socioeconomic, sign of the times. The times are tough. We do see some very sad stories going through, and like I said, that's probably why it's better served through restorative justice. So we can also not only deter those individuals, but also find them the right resources if they don't have to be afraid to ask for help. So I'll leave it there, and I'll read a few files out. I always like to do this just to let you know kind of the types of files that we've been going to. So September 11th, this is over the last 2 months here. September 11th, report of loud noises coming from a vehicle on Delgado Road. Checks Road driver was wanted out of Victoria. That individual was arrested and transported into Victoria. September 16th, report of a single vehicle collision with an elk in the 4000 block of Supt Road. No longer drivable. We had to tow that vehicle. September 17th, report of male lying face down on the road near the 4500 block of Supt Road around 6 a.m. Officers responded, locating the male now walking on the side of the Supt Road aimlessly, and the male was visibly intoxicated. Released to EHS to ensure they would care for him and take him home. September 29th, approximately 1 a.m., we had an report from EHS of a single vehicle rollover. Driver said he was driving on East Supt Road when a tire blew and went into the ditch. Unfortunately, the individual was impaired and was given a 90-day roadside suspension and a 30-day vehicle impound. On October 3rd, report from a Metchosin resident who had lost over $1 million US to a fraudulent company attempting to purchase their timeshare in Mexico. That is still ongoing, that investigation. And I'll touch base at don't quote me on the number, but I think it's approximately 550 calls last year of cyber-related fraudulent types of calls. And I really have to warn, and forgive me if I've warned you guys before, but I think it's important that you get it out to your constituents, and we'll continue to do the same, that the mechanisms for the fraudsters are becoming increasingly more sophisticated. In fact, sometimes what they'll do is they'll phone, and if they get your voice for a very short period of time, they can emulate your voice. And so they'll phone back to one of your loved ones and say, hey, it's so-and-so, it's your, granddaughter, and hey, grandma, I'm in help, or I need some help, and I need some money. And it sounds just like them. So the advice we've been giving is to make sure that family members have some sort of a code word, or something like, what was the name of our first dog or first pet, or something that that knowledge wouldn't be known by the fraudster. But it's amazing. And so to that end, we're looking at next year setting up a financial crime section into the attachment. It's long overdue. And as long as we receive the increased bodies that we anticipate from Langford and Colwood and View Royal, we'll likely stand up a unit here to help to try to investigate these a little more thoroughly and deter. On October 12th, October 7th, the report of a vehicle parked on Supt Road near Kangaroo Road that was a hazard due to it sticking out of the road. Officers attended and found the vehicle, 3 individuals inside. The search found 2 hunting knives and a hatchet. Individual had a screwdriver in a sock, like a weapon. They were bound by several conditions not to possess any knives or break and enter tools. Arrested, chartered, and warned. And that investigation is still ongoing with charges. On October 12th, we had a report of a single vehicle accident on 4900 block of William Head Road. Officers attended and found 2 males in the vehicle. The male who matched the description from the complainant leaving the driver's seat was read the ASD suspicion and again was impaired and received a 90-day suspension, and we towed that vehicle as well. October 14th, we had a single vehicle MVI, 4500 block of Supt Road. Vehicle skidded off into a grassy shoulder. No alcohol, believed to be caused by wet conditions and insufficient rear tires. The wear marks were very down. They needed new tires, but likely couldn't afford them. October 13th, shots heard. Reports of sounded like 3 shots on the 4400 block of Spellman Place. Officers attended, patrolled, spoke to residents, and didn't see anything suspicious. Those are one of the 3 that I was talking about. October 15th, we had a motor vehicle accident on the 4000 block of Supt Road. Drivers of a Ford was attempting to make a left-hand turn on a double solid line into their driveway when he was hit from behind by a Chevy. It appeared that there's a rock that was on that area there that is of some concern. We did pass that on to MCON, for them to have a review of that to see if there's any engineering that needs to be visited in that particular case. And finally, on October 27th, we went to a single vehicle MVI. We knocked over a pole and ended up in the ditch around 2 a.m. in the 800 block of Ferris Road. And unfortunately, once again, we had an impaired driver. So another 90-day suspension on a towed vehicle. So those files were just some of the highlights from the last month and a half, 2 months, Metchosin specifically. And then finally, I just wanted to touch base, and I know I've talked to you, Madam Mayor, and I apologize that we didn't get this information out sooner. So it was about 2 weeks ago that we made a decision at Area Chief. So that's we meet regularly, and we have integrated units with Victoria, Colwood, Saanich, Victoria, Central Saanich, Oak Bay, Supt, and Sydney. And a number of the units here, there's 5 integrated units, and we're going to be pulling out of 3 of those units for no other reason that we want to expand the services here, or there's duplication or inefficiencies that we've noted here over the past number of years. And so I'll start with talking about the mobile crisis unit. And so that was put into fruition a number of years ago. But since the inception of our mental health team here, we have a mental health unit now with 2 nurses and 3 police officers, which has gone to, again, I think 550 of the 900 calls for service since the inception of that unit. And it has been absolutely invaluable, and we hope to expand that unit with more nurses. And we may come to this council and the other councils looking for support from the province to enhance that program. When you talk to the watch commanders and you watch the roadable members, they say it's the single best unit that we've implemented in their recent memory. And to put that in perspective, our members went to, it was 513 out of 944 of our mental health calls had nurses with them, our mental health unit augmenting them. The insert model that we contribute to went to 35 calls from January 23 to July 24. So as you can see, because they're, and it's not a knock at them, they're just spread so thin, they service the whole CRD. And so that was the whole kind of precedence for why we implemented the mental health team in the first place, is we recognized the shortcoming with that. So there'll be more literature coming out to you guys. We'll send that out probably tomorrow in reference to that, but that is one of the reasons that we're shutting that or leaving that unit. The mobile youth services team, another one where, you know, on the face of it, I mean, the youth obviously is the most important piece in our community. We are actually expanding. The province gave us another body, another full member this year, and we are expanding our community policing unit. And Langford, Colwood, View Royal, and I forgive me, I'm not sure if you contribute to this as well, but the municipalities actually hired 2 youth social workers from Pacific Family Services. One of those is to be embedded and has been embedded. And recently, there was some downtime when they couldn't hire somebody, but they recently hired somebody. And they partner with our community policing to deal with our youth services, our youth that are in crisis. And so there again, it's a duplication of service. In fact, they've only gone to 15 calls for service in 1.5 years, where obviously our team is able to better serve the community. Again, not a slight at them, they're just spread too thin. So, and finally, the regional domestic violence unit. It's just too high risk. We need to have our own domestic violence unit, and so we are going to stay in these units. The first 2 integrated mobile crisis unit till the end of 2025, mobile unit till 2025, because we want to be fair to our partners and Sandwich and Victoria, Oak Bay, who we don't want to pull out and then them have budget shortfalls. And then the regional domestic violence unit will be pulling out at the end of 2026. So we're giving them lots of notice, lots of time, and that allows us to stand up our own unit. There are so many domestic violence units, and there's so much work to be done there that, again, they're spread too thin. And those 3 units alone are probably about $300,000 savings plus 1 regular member from West Shore. So there's substantial inefficiencies, and I think we can make them efficient. We will be staying in the DAC, the Diversity Advisory Committee, and also with Crime Stoppers. So those are the 2 units that we will be staying with. Can I open it up for questions, Madam Mayor?
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of information and some data for us to chew on. Does anybody have any comments or questions? Councillor Adams.
Well, back to the speed issue. I do, we do appreciate having the presence of the cars out here. I just wondered how often does traffic actually set up radar speed traps in Metchosin?
I don't know how often. I know they are out here. Is there areas that are the most concerned that you would like to see more enforcement?
Well, I think, just going from the active transportation plan information, it mentions speed prominently in both pedestrian and cycling safety issues. So, probably, there's speeders everywhere, but obviously our main roads are probably the busiest and the biggest concern. Perhaps others have others' ideas, but it doesn't seem to be getting better. And I don't know what we could do as a municipality, to help that end, to try to improve things. It just doesn't seem to be slowing people down. What we do have done so far, not much anyway.
Yeah, it's difficult because, in some of the other communities which echo the same concerns, we talk about putting roundabouts in certain areas, because it forces somebody to slow down, to navigate around, and then they put, in some municipalities, they beautify those by putting, trees and shrubs and that inside the circle there, so it's not a concrete jungle that you're going around. It kind of makes it look like a natural piece. So, if there is straightaways that you're looking at, again, I'm not an engineer, but if there's certain areas there that, that wouldn't be grossly expensive to do, that might be an option. The speed signs, like we've talked about, obviously the enforcement piece is, our area. And then also, and I talked to the CAO, I think he went around with our traffic member too, about if there is areas, and we're talking about development, my friend here that came up before me, if we're looking at doing improvements, the same lecture I gave to Colwood, please keep us in mind so that we can actually have somewhere where we can set up safely, and we can have pullouts so that we can actually do certain, if we know that this is a terrible area for speed, but some of those terrible areas are also like a game of Frogger for the members there, where they have to jump out into the middle of the road on a windy road and it's unsafe, where if there's a little patch there that we could engineer, doesn't need to be paved, it can be gravel obviously, and that we can pull people in. Please keep that in mind when you're doing your engineering. Meryl.
Councillor Shuker.
Thank you, Mayor Little. A question, but first, 2 compliments. You mentioned the member who had worked with our Chief Administrative Officer and done a ride around. Thanks. That was very much appreciated, and we actually did make what I think is a substantive change to one of the speed limits in one of our roadways. So
great.
So thank you for that. Second one, I'm aware of some suspicious activity in my local area, and multiple visits and a break-in. From what I understand from people in the area, your members have been really responsive and provided good information. So again, thank you very much for that.
Great.
Yeah. So my question though is around staffing. So we've heard that there might be some member shortages right now over the last few years. Is that true? And are you looking at improving that or changing that anytime soon?
Sure. Yeah, great question. I think there's a workplace shortage in probably every industry right now.
Yeah.
I'm privileged to report to you that we are doing extremely well at West Shore Detachment. We're fortunate that the detachment is known as around the province is very community friendly. That Pro Police, I feel like the community treat our members very well, and that starts at the top. I'm not just saying those aren't hollow words. Like the little things that you guys do for the members. When we talk about funding for mental health and wellness and that sort of stuff, those little things go a long ways. And so, anyways, to your point about staff, and I think I was told today we're at 87% roadable resources right now, which is pretty good when you consider that you have maternity, paternity, sick, ODS, transfers. We're doing extremely well, and we've got 6 bodies coming in, and I think 2 bodies going out. So, and then of course, week to week, like any industry, it kind of fluctuates. Somebody will get in a tussle tonight and hurt their shoulder, or get sick, or unfortunately. So it does vary, but yeah, all that to say is we're doing extremely well. The RCMP in general, we're like a cruise ship, if you will. It takes us a while to kind of get on course, but once we get there, this is the #1 priority, staffing with the commissioner. And depot right now is absolutely full. I think Madam Mayor actually joined me in depot in Regina there. Next year, I was told they're hoping to have 50 troops with 32 individuals in each troop to put it around 1,600 cadets. So if they get around that number, that would be outstanding. We're also getting a lot of outside interest from experienced police officers from other agencies, which we're now paid very comparable, and we've got a lot of opportunities and benefits that perhaps they don't have, and we're very fortunate for that. And so you're starting to see kind of the movement of hundreds of members from municipal agencies coming over to the RCMP.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Johnson.
Thank you very much for your report. I had the privilege recently of doing a ride along with Constable Clark.
Why not?
It was very interesting, including last night. So
It was last night you went?
Well, that was the second half of it.
Oh.
There's a bit of a backstory to that, but your staff is very compassionate and kind. We had some interesting interactions in the community, and I am assured that we should feel very safe in the hands of our RCMP for sure. even with the situations that there weren't a lot of calls or anything that we went on, but it was really interesting. I learned a lot. And was included in the, it's nothing like TV, but where you talk about, I don't remember what they call it.
The watch briefing.
Yes, at the very beginning, so that was really good. And then off we went, got into the Tesla last night.
Oh, did you?
Different cruiser there a couple weeks ago. So no, it was a very good experience, and I appreciate having been part of that. Two things I wanted to say. A couple weeks ago, there was a youth event at City Centre Park, and the Restorative Justice lady and 20 officers was there. My husband, when he was in the fire service, had an experience with Restorative Justice. This was probably 20 years ago, and that story that he told my children has always rang true in our household as to how educational and how impactful, even for him as an officer. But the two juveniles fire setters that he worked with and their families. So it is a very good program.
Yeah.
And I had a nice chat with the lady there and the work that she's been doing. So I'm thankful that we do have that in our communities. So thanks for bringing that up. We do have the speed readers in our community, and I'm not sure if they collect data, but if they collected data on how frequent or whatever speed people are going, would that help the RCMP?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I am willing to work with the council here in any capacity to try. I know this is the number one issue. What would be beneficial, and I know it's tough because you don't want to favor one area over the other, but if we had a kind of a cross-section of areas that, you know, is there rising concerns in this part of Metchosin or this part of Metchosin, that's very beneficial. Send it directly to me. I'm not going to be out there with a radar gun, but at least I'm cognizant of it, and I'm going to send it to the members. And like you say, at those watch briefings, this is an excellent opportunity for us to tell the 50, 60 members that are in general duty, not on traffic unit. I'll certainly get it to them, but it gives 50 or 60 other members that go, hey, you know what, got, an hour, there's no calls right now, or I don't have to be on a call, or what have you. I remember that, I've been asked to go do a little extra traffic work in this area, and it does happen. So it's no different than Highlands. We're in an identical situation.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Well, only through the chair, thanks so much for the work of the department and for all the members and staff. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have one other comment. So it seems like impaired drives are a significant problem. What are your thoughts on that, and what can we do about that? We've heard this before. It remains a serious problem.
Education, and just that peer support, peer pressure to tell people, for God's sakes, like, leave the car, call a cab, call a friend. In this day and age, there's no excuse for impaired driving. So it is unfortunate out here. You do see more of it because people could think they can get away with it perhaps more because you're in a rural setting and you got to go from their friend's house on a rural road to another rural road. But you saw how many accidents there are too, and so obviously that's the catalyst between the two, right? And then finally, again, I know that some of you haven't made it out for ride-alongs. If anybody would still like to come on another one or would like to come for the first time, please let me know.
Okay. And you recently hold a recruitment event at the RCMP to let people know what Depot is all about and about the training. How did that go?
We've been doing a ton of recruiting lately, and it's been going well. Like I said, it's the number one priority for the RCMP right now. So whether we're recruiting at the high school or we're down at the Victoria Grizzlies dressing room after the game, we are out everywhere right now asking people to consider policing as a career opportunity. It's going very well, though. A lot of interest in this area here.
Okay. That's great. Thank you for participating tonight. I
Thank you very much
appreciate
for
it.
having me. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, with that, we'll turn to item number 3, which is the public participation. We have 4 minutes per person to a maximum of 45 minutes. If you could state your name and your street, and you have 4 minutes. Thank you.
Darren Brown, Graceland Road. Maybe just a quick question for the chair, if I could, to Dan, and that's the thought about topography in Metchosin and our varied topography and how that would go into your active transportation plan. I don't know if it's suitable to ask that at this time, or?
Sure. Dan, would you mind coming to the mic?
Yeah, great question. There are things we can do in a kind of the plan operates at quite a high level, but there are things we can do around how facilities are meant to be designed so that they have, you can have certain treatments that allow people to climb, and on the way down on the exact same road, you can actually offer a different treatment because someone might be coming on a bike on speed, say, or in a pedestrian setting that might mean like a rest opportunity partway up for someone walking or rolling in the uphill, which they probably don't need to the same extent in the downhill. So there are certain things that can be done.
I guess I was asking for the concept of prioritization of pathways, or are you looking for flat surfaces as enabling transportation better than over hills?
Yeah.
For like the Helmet 1, for example?
Yeah, really good thought there. And I think we can do, we've done this in other communities. We've done full-blown analyses where you can actually map topography and choose routes, that, especially for cycling, that are the least steep routes, because those are going to be better to ride on. We hadn't planned to go that far here, but absolutely we could be giving consideration to alternatives to particularly steep patches.
I just think about the Galloping Goose being our like highway, and it's railroad grade.
Yeah.
It's used because it's railroad grade, and it really. And if we're looking at connections to other regional parks and so forth from the Galloping Goose, would we apply the same mindset?
Yeah, I think it's a great comment.
Okay. Thank you, Dan.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else wish to speak at public participation this evening? See no one. Let's move on to the adoption of minutes. So, Council, I'm on page 27 of the agenda. We've got the council minutes from October 7th, 2024 for adoption. Move adoption by
Second.
Councillor Donaldson, seconded by Councillor Shukin. Comment? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And then we've got the receipt of minutes. First of all, the Finance Committee meeting minutes of October 7th. Councillor Donaldson.
That's a motion to adopt the Finance Committee meeting of October 7th, 2024.
Yeah, motion to receive. Seconded by Councillor Shukin. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And the special finance meeting again, Councillor Donaldson on page 37.
Motion to receive the Special Finance Committee budget meeting of October 9th, 2024.
Moved by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by Councillor Shukin. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And then Councillor Shukin, we have the Community Planning Committee minutes next.
Thank you, Mayor Little. Move receipt of the Community Planning Committee meeting of October 21st, 2024.
This is moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And then Councillor Epp, we have on page 47 the October 21st Public Works and Protective Services Committee.
Move receipt.
Moved by Councillor Epp, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Mayor's report. So I don't have any report really this time. I had a written report a couple of weeks ago, just to let you know that on Wednesday at the Committee of the Whole meeting with the CRD, we're beginning the provisional budget approval and the community needs summary. So that will be interesting to do. Lots and lots of reading, but interesting. I'll report on that as we go through. Okay. Moving to business arising, we've got the Community Planning Committee recommendations, Council Shukin, on page 51.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor Little. And thanks to my council colleagues for some good discussion last Monday on a proposed new zone to support conservation and biodiversity goals with a focus on the bufferland. And I would simply move that council request a staff report on the potential of a new conservation area zone, P4, as I had called it in my report, for the Metchosin bufferland to support biodiversity, environmental protection, and land and water protection. The actions below, I think, will be forwarded to the planner for her attention. So moved.
Moved by Councillor Schuken, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Do you wish to speak to more?
I don't think so. I think we talked a great deal about this last Monday. It was a very full meeting. Just looking forward to further discussion on this. I know there was some talk about whether conservation area was the right name. She'll have a crack at that and see what her views are. So, yeah.
And it's very respectful of the working group's recommendations as well. Councillor Donaldson, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I think that the 9 bullets here are representative of the discussion that we had, and it's fairly inclusive of the mandate of what the working group had put together for us to consider for recommendations. So I look forward to hearing back from our planner to see what the next step will be.
Anybody else? Councillor Gregg?
I agree with the comments of Councillor Donaldson. The one thing I think that would be worthwhile in terms of the actions included in the management plan, some idea of cost of implementing that plan. And that was, I think, the second recommendation of the working group. What's it look like resource-wise, and what might we do? And in that same bullet, just emphasize, when we say, when is it appropriate to develop, we mean, when is it appropriate to develop the plan, not the property.
Councillor Epp, did you want to say anything about this one? No? Okay. With that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And continue.
Yes. Second bit of action from this meeting was the Metchosin Parks donation program, and simply that council direct staff to harmonize the parks donation guideline updates that have been prepared by PTASC with the District of Metchosin's Public Works Policy Donation to Community Parks W180. So moved.
Okay. Moved by Councillor Schuken, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Comment? Go ahead.
Just to ask, then it would come to council for its final approval. Is that the idea?
Yeah, and we may look at whether we decide it is a policy, and in that case, it would come back to council. So, yeah, some good work done by especially Mr. Ryan, our coordinator. But there's some really good stuff, I think, in the old policy as well, and thus the desire to harmonize and take the best of what's before us right now. So.
Go ahead.
So much appreciated, and the work that Ryan did as well. And as we did the last week, wish him well in his future endeavors. The one question I still had remaining that we could pick up later would be the number of monuments per person. We should just sort that out. So
sure.
I think 1 monument sounds reasonable, but just so it'll be included. Thank you.
Do we have monuments for plural for individuals that you're concerned about?
We have 1 monument. When we had the map at the last meeting, you could see there was a monument there, and then there's a proposal for a new monument for one of the people who've already got one and their husband. I think it's the same person.
Yeah, it seems like it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. With that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. So, Councillor Epp, we have the Public Works and Protective Service Committee recommendations from October 1st and the pink item.
Right, this first one is on the Emergency Preparedness Fund, so I'll move that Council approve an application to the UBCM Community Emergency Preparedness Fund grant application and authorize the Mayor and CEO to execute any agreements related to the successful grant application.
This is moved by Councillor Epp, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Do you wish to speak to it more?
Well, I think it's it's brought forward by the fire chief, and looks like a good grant to drive for.
Okay, Councillor Donaldson. Anything else?
I agree. I think the fire chief was pretty clear on what it was used for, and I think that it appears to be timely. Okay. I think these funds will be very applicable and as a good investment for us to hopefully achieve this grant.
Councillor Gray.
Yes, I just wanted to say that the fire chief had been in touch with me following the last meeting, and there is in fact a grant opportunity for evacuation plans and the shoreline spill response, so she's going to look into that. So just an addendum to our conversation at our last meeting.
Okay. Okay, with that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Mayor Little?
Continue. Oh, sorry?
I'm sorry, I just wanted to confirm that you called the question on the new zone for the Metchosin buffer land. I had Councillor Shupin as the mover and Councillor Donaldson, but I didn't hear you call the question.
Okay, so let's go back to page 51A. Councillor Shukin, Councillor Donaldson seconded the motion. We had a fulsome discussion, I think, previously, and opportunity here. I'll call the question. All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. Thanks for that. Sorry, Councillor Epp, go ahead.
This is about the, which we discussed earlier, adding a lighted pedestrian activated crosswalk at Hans Helgeson School, since there is a grant that might be available for that. So I move council approve an application to the BC Vision Zero Road Safety Program for a lighted crosswalk at Hans Helgeson School and authorize the mayor and CEO to execute any agreements related to a successful grant application.
Okay, this is moved by Councillor Epp, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Anything you want to speak more, Councillor Epp?
I think we covered it.
Okay, Councillor Donaldson.
No, I just want to say I think this would be a great attribute to add to the work that's already done. It is a fairly dark corridor and certainly very busy with traffic and children, and with many more youngsters coming on board with the daycare there. I think it'll be an asset for us to have more visible accoutrements.
Anybody else? Councillor Gray.
Yeah, just a comment that I'm voting in favor of this motion, but I want us to think as we're moving forward now. We're going to have a new government. I'm not sure what happened today in the election. I didn't hear the latest, but I do think we may see grants drying up regardless of the government in power, given the election campaign and what we heard. So as we move forward and are looking at grants, let's think about our opportunities and lost opportunities and costs and that sort of thing, because we may not have such opportunities in the same way they have been in the past.
Okay, call the question. All in favor? That's unanimous as well. And C.
Moving on to Metchosin Wellness Collective, we did, have, excuse me, talk about this, that being such a bonus for Metchosin, if this all comes together, something that we've hoped to have in this community for quite some time. So I'll move the council approve in principle the concept of Metchosin Wellness Collective, and the council directs staff to proceed with negotiations.
Okay, moved by Councillor Epp, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Anything else you wish to say about this?
I just think it's a wonderful proposal, and it's just looks really good for the future of the community.
Absolutely. Councillor Donaldson.
Yeah, I just wanted to be clear that when staff is proceeding with negotiations, that we have a comparable lease as opposed to competitive with our business community. So we're not undercutting the rest of our business community, that we are keeping up with competitive rates and that sort of thing. I do agree with my colleague, Councillor Epp. This will be very supportive of the health and well-being of our residents in the community. It's a very great idea.
Okay, anybody else? Councillor
Yeah, speaking in favor of the motion, I think the one thing we're missing is what's the rate that we might be charging. So in the gym, we set specific rates, and they were approved at the council level, and I'm just not sure the process here in terms of getting a rate. We were advised, I think the other day, it might be something like a 5-year lease, or we're looking for a long-term lease. Previously, the arrangements on the commercial side, there was certainly confusion in the community around the issue of tenant improvements in place of rent and that kind of thing. And I think the opportunity is there for us to think about, well, what is the reasonable rent to be charged? And maybe we'll get advice from the CEO about that prior to finalizing a contract.
Councillor Donaldson.
That's exactly what I was trying to explain, that it be a comparable lease Now that we've had people in there leasing from us and some bookings, a lot of the refurbishment has been done, the renovations the place is ready to go, more or less. This is just the one last little bit. That we are open for business and we need to be drawing in lease, monthly lease, whatever the negotiations are that are of modern times, I guess is the word, whatever the rates are. And like Councillor Gray says, I don't know what the rates are, but that the school becomes revenue generating so that we're not always subsidizing. That was my point for saying that.
Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? That's unanimous as well. Councillor F,
Excuse me.
continue.
I just asked then, so will we hear from the CEO about that, not tonight, but at another time before things are finalized? Thank you very much. That's an action item.
Go ahead, Councillor F.
Just moving on to the pink. This was a letter we discussed that both Rogers and TELUS representatives had advised it would be a good idea. Metchosin sent a letter to the powers that be just saying that we would welcome to have improved cell service in Metchosin. So we'll move the council send a letter to Rogers and TELUS relaying the message Metchosin would welcome improved cell service in the community, and that Councillor Shukin and Epp draft a letter to go to the mayor for approval to send on.
Okay, moved by Councillor Epp, second by Councillor Shukin. Do you wish to say anything else? And would we also copy the province on this?
I think we can probably send it to everybody.
Okay.
You never know what might work.
Okay. Okay, Councillor Shukin?
No,
No.
no.
Okay, Councillor Gray?
Just a thanks to Councillor Epp for all the work digging around in this difficult area.
Okay, with that, I'll call the question. All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, we have reports for action next on page 55. We have a note from Mr. Creek, our Chief Financial Officer, regarding the LGMA intern grant application for internship program. Mr. Creeks, would you come to the mic, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm here to ask for your endorsement to apply for the LGMA internship grant. LGMA is willing to put $47,000 towards us hiring a intern. Should work out to about 6 months. The district itself would have to put forward $7,500, $5,000 for wages, $2,500 for professional development. We would know December 1st if we were going to get one. There's 6 grants available to 6 different districts in BC. So there's one for the entire island. So it's certainly not guaranteed, but it's definitely worth a shot. It's not a big grant application to fill out. It'd be well worth it. We currently have in the budget for 2025 hiring a casual worker for the summer to help cover property taxes. With this additional funding, we'd be able to bring them in for that, as well as to help out with the building department, planning, general administration, fire department administration, and help relieve pressure where it is during the summer, vacations, that kind of thing. Any questions?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, funny enough, I saw this the other day myself and I sent it right off to Mr. Creek. This is coming up on the agenda. For all the reasons he's just stated, I think this would be an asset for supporting our staff, give us another staff member, albeit it may be short term, but certainly if we're successful, I think it'll fit quite nicely with our team, and to be able to mentor an up and coming legislative assistant in whatever part of our government would be a great model for us to be working with an individual like that.
Anybody else? Any questions? Councillor Gray?
Through the chair, great idea. Councillor Dawson and Mr. Creek, I'm just wondering, if we take $2,500 from our staff training budget, I don't know if that's how that's expended annually. Is that are any concerns about taking training away from other staff, or we'll fit it in okay?
We can fit it in. I guess I would possibly ask, like, if we could bump that budget up a little bit. I'm willing to take it out of mine. I've already been booking to my GFOA conferences for this year and next year. So that's already covered by one big payment that we've made this year. So I don't technically need my training budget for next year, so I'm willing to give that up. But if you're willing to add an extra $12.50, that would certainly help other people around here.
Well, maybe we should look at it during the budget process, but I'm supporting the recommendation for sure, and that's very generous of you. I wasn't thinking of you personally,
Well,
but generally, just if we were okay to manage it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Shukin.
Thank you, Mayor Little. Quick question, what kind of vocation area are we looking at for a position like this? Is it administrative? Is it a student in planning or engineering or anything like that? Or all of the above?
It could be all of the above. Kind of comes down to who ends up applying through LGMA for these internship programs, and then kind of, I gotta imagine they'd be somewhere located in the area, so either in Metchosin or Langford, Sioux, Colwood area, so it's easy access to the job.
Okay.
Not entirely sure who, but it's definitely somebody that's interested in coming into municipal government. So I want to say it'd be finance, but it can't be finance.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Go ahead, Councillor.
Well, as you said, it's definitely worth a shot.
Absolutely. Councillor Shukin.
So, Mayor Little, I would move that council endorse the grant application to LGMA and to the LGMA internship program and authorize the mayor and CAO to execute any agreements related to a successful grant application. So,
Okay. Moved by Councillor Shukin, second by Councillor Gray. Any other comments? Councillor Shukin, Councillor Gray. Anybody else? No? I'll call the question. All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next we have the, thank you. Next we have the West Shore Parks and Recreation. As you've noticed from our budget meetings, this is a significant budget item on our budget as well. We've got the table from the West Shore Parks and Recreation, their capital budget requests here. Do we have any comments?
I just want to be able to, as a member sitting at the board representing our community, this budget has been gone over a number of different times with a lot of different attributes to it, a lot of toiling. As with many businesses and governing agencies, including our own, collective bargaining wage increases are the big ones right now. And they've outlined that in the report here. For every $89,000, it's 1.4% an increase in the requisition. Insurance premiums are quite steep too. 10% is what we've been experiencing. The annual utility rates are up. However, the diligence of this staff at West Shore have been very cognizant of energy conservation upgrades and putting heat from ice back into things like the pool and childcare and that sort of thing. So they're trying their best to keep that down. A lot of non-discretionary increase in expenses, as I've just stated. The one thing that they are proposing to do also for the next year is increase fees for and charges for use of different parts of the facility, whether that be admissions, golfing, indoor facilities, that sort of thing. So it's all in the report, but they have been very careful as to where they're drawing in the money, how they're investing it, and applying for grants when they're available, and that sort of thing. What's another thing? Yeah, I think that covers it. If anyone has questions, I can try and answer.
Okay. Anybody else? If not, did you want to move the recommendation?
I would like to move that council approve the West Shore Parks and Recreation Society 2025 budget and requisition as presented.
Second.
Moved by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by Councillor Shukin. Councillor Donaldson, anything else? Did you want to motivate on that?
The only other thing that I wanted to say is if we were looking at the final page of the report there, page 60, you'll see that it lists the requisition requests for each of our other owners, Cohen Highlands, Langford, Biannual, and it was explained to me ours is higher because our assessments were higher for our housing. So that's how they're basing costs on.
Okay. Councillor Schuken, did you anything? No? Councillor Gray?
Yeah, I wondered if I, through the chair, I might ask Councillor Donaldson. It looks like it's a 3.6% increase in the annual budget to contribute to the capital reserves in order for maintenance and replacement of existing infrastructure. And I wonder if we'd support the same approach here in Metchosin. Getting a look at our reserves and seeing whether or not we're putting enough money into our reserves to take care of our existing infrastructure.
We certainly can look at that. As you recall, last year, a lot of our reserves were over the maximum already, but with the new CFO, we certainly can revisit that this year. So I appreciate the prompt.
Thank you.
Anyone else? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? None opposed. Thank you. And with that, let's move to reports for information on page 95. We have the Metchosin Building Inspection Department. As we see every month, you can see there's a variance between the current year-to-date and the monthly totals from 2023. Looks like permits are down and revenue is down. It's the most salient feature, I think, of that. Okay.
Move proceed.
Moved by Councillor Schuken, seconded by Councillor Kemp. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Great. And the District of Metchosin Public Communication Report, statistics from September of 97.
Move receipt.
Moved by Councillor Epp, seconded by Councillor Schuken. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And then we have the, yeah, go
Can I
ahead.
just ask a question about the blasting permits? I'm sorry if I missed it. I was just trying to find the page. And I think it is on page 95. Yeah, blasting permits. So is that? Can I ask? Is the Marcotte pit for this chair for the CEO? Is the Marcotte pit active? I was asked just about the blasting schedules, and I wonder if those are going on now.
Yeah, I don't know. CAO or do you have any?
Maybe I can put that question.
But I do know it's...
Don't need an answer tonight. But
So I don't know what's happening.
Say that again.
The Marcotte pit has been sold, so I'm not sure what the new owners are doing, but it's certainly our CEO.
Okay. CAO Payette, would you be able to address the question? No. Nope. Okay.
that'd be great. Thank you very much.
Okay. Where were we? The public communications report statistics. Councillor Epp. Page 97.
Oh, I can.
Oh, did we do that already?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah. And we've got the CRD bylaw and animal care services report from September 2024, page 99 to 103. Okay. Moved by Council Donaldson, seconded by Council Schuken. Move received. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And then we have the West Shore RCMP biannual report, January to June 2024, page 105.
I'll move receipt.
Moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Epp. Any comments? No. Okay, great having Superintendent Todd Preston here to present this. All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. And correspondence for action, we have none. Correspondence for information. We have a letter of thank you from Jessica Lidgen, the Secretary Marketing Director of the Wandafuka Lacrosse, thanking us for the grant in aid of $900. This will be used for the purchase of new jerseys and goalie equipment. Okay. Move receipt of information, moved by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by Councillor Schuken. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And then we have a letter from Loris Hall, the Deputy Minister, of Minister of Water, Land Resource Stewardship. This is a follow-up from our conversation at UBCM with Nathan Cullen and his staff. So it's great that they've written us back. They're going to connect with staff after the election, and they've mentioned that there's some watershed security funding that we may be eligible for and to keep on our radar. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I noticed the Watershed Security Fund has an intake from November 12th to December 11th this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just a question really through the chair to Councillor Shukin. I think this came up around well monitoring. So we might think of something between now and the end of the intake on well monitoring.
Yeah.
The other area would be the riparian protections, and thinking about that. The kind of criteria they have are learning phase, partners in relationship building. So there's something there that maybe we could look at. I'd be happy to look on my end, and maybe Councillor Shukin and I can just talk about what might be a good one.
Which riparian area are you talking about?
We've asked that the planner look at the question of riparian protections, and there's it's funny that it's called Stream 1. There's 3 streams in the Watershed Security Fund, and Stream 1 is exploring learning phase with partners in relationship building, a $50,000 grant. And I'm just thinking about connecting with the planner about the work that she's undertaking now about riparian work to see if there's anything useful in a grant that might help us move that along.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sensitive too to the question of perhaps we can do something about well monitoring at the same time frame. But it's a neat suggestion from the Deputy Minister.
Yeah, and I will have a look at the Watershed Security Fund with that in mind. The monitoring well,
Mm-hmm.
I think, is essentially a provincial asset. So I'm not exactly sure what our role is in getting it in place.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it is worth following up in time once we know who the minister is and they've had a chance to settle and all that. So, yeah. And Mayor Little, along that line, it seems we do know who our elected MLA is right now. And I wonder if it might be appropriate to send Mr. Lajeunesse a letter of congratulations.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, could I make a motion to that?
Sure.
So
Moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, great. And then just receipt of this letter, Councillor Shukin.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Great. And then we have on page 125, AVICC, just noting that there is a request for resolutions for submission to the AVICC conference, which is next spring. So keep in mind the deadline is coming February 6th. So if you have anything that you'd like to put forward, I think that would be great if everybody think about that. Okay. Okay. So move receipt by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by Councillor Gray. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Great. And then moving along to our bylaws. On page 139, we have building bylaw 2024, number 694. We've got a staff member that's going to introduce this. CEO Pyatt, thank you.
Okay, through the chair, I can do this one. I'll just read off a few notes here. Handy little notes. Staff are pleased to present the new building bylaw for the district of Metchosin. The building bylaw provides detailed procedures for applying for permits, conducting inspections, and enforcing building standards to ensure that construction meets the requirements of the building code, the building bylaw, and other enactments. The bylaw includes provisions to ensure that all new construction for Part 3 and Part 9 buildings are designed and constructed to meet or exceed the minimum performance requirements of the GHG emissions, level 4 of the Zero Carbon Step Code. The bylaw also includes an owner's acknowledgement of responsibilities and an owner's understanding, placing responsibility on the property owners, constructors or contractors, and registered professionals, and identifies the district from liability. At the time, the draft bylaw was presented to the September 23rd Community Planning Committee. The committee inquired as to the EV charging infrastructure. Local governments are regulating these requirements for new buildings through municipal zoning bylaws, and inspection of EV infrastructure is regulated through the BC Electrical Code and Technical Safety BC. Staff are currently working on updating application forms and the district's permitting software to include new fees that are included in the new fees and charges bylaw. And so the recommendation tonight is for council to consider the first 3 readings of the bylaw, and that if council wants to pursue the EV infrastructure in new buildings, direct staff to bring forward an amendment to the district's land use bylaw to regulate EV ready requirements in new buildings. That's it.
Okay. So this is one of our strategic priorities, was to update our bylaws. This one was last updated in 2013, so it's definitely needing an update. Does anybody want to comment on this or move the recommendation? There's 2. We'll take them separately.
Just a very quick comment. Spent a fair bit of time with this when we met in September. Seemed very sound to me, and I want to pass on big thanks to our staff, and especially to Miss Hanson, who I think coordinated much of the effort, and congratulations to Mr. Payette for turning the task to is one of his most dedicated and diligent team members. What's happened is, of course, it's been updated and modernized in a way that such that the fees have been removed and we can look at those in time separately, and also the penalties for violations have also been moved out as well and deal with those in separate bylaws. So it's been modernized, it's been cleaned up, and administratively made more sound, I think. So yeah.
Okay.
Great. Can I ask Ms. Hanson, we can do all 3 readings, okay?
Go ahead.
With that, if I could, I would move that council give first, second, and third reading to the District of Metchosin Building Bylaw 2024 number 694. So
This is moved by Councillor Schuppen, seconded by Councillor Epp. Anything else? No. And Councillor Epp? No? Anybody have any questions, comments?
Just pleased to see the action on the zero carbon step code that we've all been keen to see implemented, and I think that's great news.
Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? No one opposed. Thank you. And then the second recommendation, Councillor Schuppen.
sure, that council consider direction to staff to bring forward a report and an amendment to the Metchosin Land Use Bylaw number 259 to regulate electric vehicle ready requirements in new buildings. So moved.
Moved by Councillor Schuppen, seconded by, does anybody want to second this? Epp. Councillor Epp, discussion? Do you have anything more, Councillor Schuppen?
No, I don't think so. It is. No, I think it's a good move to put this into the land use bylaw. It kind of boggles the mind that people wouldn't automatically think that this should be in place in their house right now. There are some differing electrical needs that will come up in time, though, with as batteries get bigger, as cars change. So it actually, I think, is almost doing forthcoming residents a favor to make sure it's in when we get to it. So
Okay, modernizing and Councillor Epp.
Yeah, I'm just not sure exactly what it means by regulate. You know, are they requiring that, or what exactly does that mean?
So as I read it, there would be certain requirements for new builds for EV infrastructure, charging stations. Go ahead, Councillor Schuppen.
And I think it is, if I recall the process we went through, you are required to have your home be solar ready. So you don't have to do solar, but you have to have the wiring in place for that. So I think it's along these lines. So.
Anybody else? Councillor Gray and Councillor Donaldson.
Well, I'm in favor of this. Again, it goes along with our climate plan. We're kind of moving people from doing it on their own to saying, well, actually, it's going to be in your house when you buy it, a new building, or if you build. I guess my only question is regarding staff priorities. So for me, this is a nice to have, but not a necessary thing in the sense of its encouragement. So I would simply suggest that it be scheduled when we are picking up some other revisions to the land use bylaw. In other words, not to add the workload here, but say when we do the land use bylaw, let's include this in the change that's coming. We're a small place, we don't have that many new builds. I'm in favor of it, of course, but I just think of being kind to the workload for our staff.
Councillor Donaldson?
Yeah, just because I do not have an EV, yet for those who do, it's my understanding right now you can put in, I don't know, something obviously you can plug your car into, so what is the difference? Could you not just do that after you build a house, or is this something?
You can.
Okay.
So a normal plug-in will charge a car. It could take a week though to charge like a car with 800 kilometer range. If you have the proper wiring, and I forget what is it, type 2, type 3, you can do that overnight. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah. And of course, the best time to do it is when the house is being built, not after you've been in it for a few years and realize, oh, I would like a type 2 charger.
So the technology is now stable enough that they're not going to keep updating it to something else?
Hard to say. So,
Okay.
hard to say. Yeah, it's bound to be updated at some point, but yeah.
But not the wiring, just the charger.
I think, yeah,
That makes
would
sense.
seem to me, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, with that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And then we have the fees and charges bylaw 2024, number 696. The recommendation is that council give first, second, and third reading to the fees and charge bylaw. Ms. Hanson, did you want to speak to this item?
Good evening. So this is the new fees and charges bylaw. It's basically initiated because we have a new building bylaw now, so the building fees have all been updated and incorporated into the new fees and charges bylaw. Other fees are the administrative fees, the animal control bylaw fees, and the Metchosin school multi-use facility fees. And our CFO has done a comparison of other municipalities in the region to update all of those fee schedules. And just having a new fees and charges bylaw ensures that we are recovering costs and things are more in line with district services. And there was one other point. I forgot. Oh yes, so just as we bring bylaws forward to be updated, we will start removing or updating the fees, removing those fee schedules and replacing them into the new fees and charges bylaw so that all of the district fees will be incorporated into one bylaw. And we're just recommending first, second, and third reading of this bylaw.
Okay, that's great. Again, something that we've asked for, so that's wonderful. Thanks. Thanks for working on this and also presenting to us. That's wonderful. Councillor Donaldson, did you want to?
I would just say thank you very much for to the staff for merging all this information into one document, streamlining it, and bringing us, modernizing us again so everything works well with everything else that we were doing. So I would like to move that council give first, second, and third reading to bylaw number 696.
Okay, this is moved by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by Councillor Shukin. Anything else did you want to add, Councillor Donaldson? Councillor Shukin? No? Anybody else? Okay, we'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much. So we also have a report to council on the municipal ticket information authorization amendment number 2024, number 705. Ms. Hanson.
So this bylaw is just to amend the tickets for the building bylaw. There is one change that we're proposing. I did send this off to have CRD bylaw reviewed, and one of the changes that they proposed was removing the fine for damage to municipal works, because we already require a fine through highway use permits for $1,500. Or sorry, not fines, but a damage deposit. And so essentially it's like double dipping. So they just suggested that that fine be removed.
Okay, so that's on the top of page 222, number 13. Okay, so what you'd like us to do is the first and second reading and the third as amended.
That's correct. So first and second reading, amend the bylaw by removing that section 13, and then give third reading as amended.
Okay. So the first and second we can do, and then we'll do a third reading as amended, removing the number 13. Okay, Councillor Shukin.
Mayor Little, I would move that council give first and second reading to the municipal ticket information authorization amendment bylaw 2024 number 705. So moved.
Thank you. This is moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Epp. Comments? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Continue.
And
amend bylaw.
okay.
Third reading with the amendment.
Okay. Thank you. I would move that council give third reading to the municipal ticket information bylaw number 705 as amended. That's easy.
Moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Comments? Questions? Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Ms. Hanson. That's great. Oh, and that's it. Other business. Do we have other business? Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I don't know the details, but Thursday is Halloween, and so everyone at this table must have costumes. Because we are, I believe, been asked to help serve up some treats at the fire hall. There'll be a bonfire, and I believe there is a costume contest.
6 p.m.
6 p.m. Okay, the time is, I didn't know.
And Councillor Epp has a tickle trunk full of costumes. If you need something, I'm sure she will give you a hand. Yeah. Okay. We have time for question period. I really admire the tenacity of the 3 participants that are left tonight. So if you have any questions, you're welcome to ask them at this point.
I don't recall a council meeting that was this sparsely attended, like the whole time that I.
Maybe there's something else on tonight we weren't invited.
Yeah, what's going on?
Okay. Okay, with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Epp. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much, everybody.
Especially